G'day friends, welcome to today's YouTube video. My name is James, welcome back to my channel, welcome if you are new. Today we're gonna hang out for about an hour, I think. I don't really know, I'm not gonna set an alarm or anything, I'm just gonna go through, I guess I'm just gonna keep just pottering about until something happens, until I feel like that's good. So I'm gonna literally just hang out with you for the next period of time, and I'm not going to edit anything, I'm not going to speed anything up. This is you and I sitting at my desk just doing whatever. There are two parts of this video, I think. One, I just want to address, this is not my style of video that I'm planning to do forever now. In fact, I don't think I've ever really done this before. Usually I at least set everything up, but I'm just kind of curious to know if this is maybe a better reflection of like what actually happens during a period of time. So yes, please don't think that I've just turned a lazy new leaf and this is what I'm going to be doing forever. I don't plan on it. I just want to kind of make this video and see if it is helpful for anyone to really see what goes on real time when I sit down at my desk, when I have nothing really going on in my head, and to see what happens there. Especially since last week's video we were talking a lot about creative block, and I think this is probably like the closest I would get to creative block as far as like, well, I've not really got anything planned and I have to go and do something. So I've actually just turned the camera on. I haven't even unpacked my bag, which I should be careful of because I know there's stuff in here you can't see because it's virtual voyage related. So I'll put that over there. Okay. So I'm just going to go through it all and we'll kind of see what happens on my little planner. The reason I've got everything in a bag, my little travel pouch, is because I have been sitting outside recently. They've made these little kind of gathering park areas around my neighborhood, and Steve and I have been going to work outside, and fantastic cat hair or my hair, I just don't know. We've been sitting outside and having a lovely time in the fresh air. I've been doing lots of studies and lots of journaling outside. It's kind of hard to film out there. I wish I could because it's a much nicer environment, but I thought, even today I thought, well, maybe I'll go and do this outside. It gets really windy and I don't really have any tripod anymore. One of my tripods broke, and this clamp arm I'm not quite sure would work because, actually no, now that I think of it, if it clamps to the table I might be able to. These are my literal random thoughts. I'm also having an allergy attack right now, so this is a fantastic time to have started this video. Hopefully anyone who was turned off by the idea of this video has gone, and the only people left are willing to have a really relaxed, chill, kind of random time, because that's what we're in for. Here is my travel set at present. I've actually just kind of changed a few of these things out. But I'm not gonna like go through this as like, this is my recommendations, because this is still in process. It kind of always is. Those were just the things that I grabbed yesterday. My planner, my little Mina Perhonen. I took out my 5-year journal because I'm supposed to do a bit of catch up in that. It holds in this cover, which is the cover I got. This box is the box I got the cover for, and then this box is the one that I got my Hobonichi cover for, my planner. So I put them both in there. It's like 4 boxes. I know it's a lot extra, but I just can't help myself. I don't want to throw the boxes away. Excuse me a second while I blow my nose. This is going to be such a bad video already. Goodness, that is so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. I promised myself I wouldn't cut the video though, so that it'd be really honest. Now I'm just wondering if that was a terrible idea. Probably. It's okay. I trust that you're not that offended by it. Okay, let's get into something. I recently got a book. I got this book from LACMA, and it is Yoshitomo Nara. I have literally been so obsessed with his work recently, and I actually wanted to go to the exhibit. It's just opened. I'm not sure if I'll get there, but instead of actually going, I thought, you know what, before I go, why don't I just order this book? So it's kind of like a collection of everything that you could see at the gallery. And I haven't even really looked through it. I picked it up this morning from the package locker at my apartment building, so I haven't really seen any of this, but I was wondering if I could get a little inspired by it, and I've been doing studies of his work all week. It's kind of a Japanese artist where I think it's like Tim Burton meets kawaii culture. It's very interesting. I'm very interested in it. It looks very freeing and liberating, and there's that kind of sinister cuteness to it. So I'm kind of obsessed. I may go through this book and do a little bit of a study. For some reason I've got this journal out. Do I want to work in this one? I think I do. We can start in this one. If I don't want to, I will move on to another. Let's see, this was a Mary Blair study I did with my poster paints. I call them poster paints because that's what they're called, poster color, but pretty sure it's gouache. Should just keep calling it gouache because I'm gonna keep saying that same statement that I think it's gouache forever, and that could get really old. All right, do you know what I might get? I'm gonna get these stamps. Something about some of his work reminded me of when I made the Cutie Pie stamp set. This is my little stamp holder. It doesn't have all of them, it just has like some of the most recent sets. It's a little A5 folder I got from Target. I just want this. The 2x6 kind of flop around in there, but everything else is pretty good and solid. Actually, I'll go for the bigger one. I want this as my guide. I'm not actually going to kind of work with the stamp. I just want to use it for a base. So, I'm gonna ghost stamp it out. Goodness, how long have we been on already? And I've literally done nothing. This is why YouTube videos are so fake. Because if this were a regular YouTube video, let me see, 6 minutes in, I would have done something by now. If it was a regular one. I know sometimes I make crazy YouTube videos where I don't really do anything, but hopefully this is a really good look. That's my intention. I want this to be a good look at what happens when I just sit down at my desk with nothing in my brain. But I mean, things are already coming to my brain, right? I've seen the book. I want to do some studies from the book, I think. I've got a journal here waiting to be used, and an idea from earlier this week. Not even an idea, but just a thought that something about the stamps that I'd created reminded me of some of that work. When I actually stamp it out, I can see it's really nothing like it at all. The big eyes, yes, but they're the completely wrong shape, so I'm going to reshape those eyes to the right shape. This one's going to be a bit, like if I do this really neatly, that's kind of not how his work is. There's kind of that, I call it a peanut-shaped head, but I'm not sure if it's, yeah, I think it's a peanut shape. So I'm gonna round out some of those cheeks into the ears. If you have the Cutie Pie stamp set, you could do this study along with me. I'm not really trying to teach anything, but just a thought. Because I'm just gonna go through this real time, so we could be here for ages. Which is normal. I spend hours doing these studies. I know by the time you see them on Instagram, they look like, oh, look, he just whipped up a study, but I spend hours doing it. Yesterday, I was outside for 2 hours doing a study for one of my virtual voyage things, and it was just ideas. It wasn't even content that's actually for the workshop. It was just ideas I had to get out of my brain to see if they worked or not. And it actually did work, so 2 hours well spent. Although I do believe in any circumstance, time spent studying and playing is well spent, whether you get something out of it or not. Because sometimes you don't learn the lesson straight away. It will sit in there, and then it'll come out like years later, and you'll think, oh, now all those skills make sense. So, I'm gonna, sorry, my nose. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. Excuse me. Another very real part of when I do videos, I have massive allergy attacks. I've taken my medicine and everything, it's just we have 2 cats and the seasons are turning. It's going into spring, which is nice. What do I want? He's got kind of this scribble hair, I think. Maybe I'll do the scribble. I've got to stop trying to neaten this up too much. I should have used a pen as well. Maybe the fact that I'm using pencil is making me a little precious. Put these big pupils in. They take up almost the whole eye. And there's a bunch of different faces that he does, but I like this wide set nostril face. And this kind of, there's like such a slight curve to the mouth. It's actually quite interesting to try and replicate. do that little mouth. And now I feel like that really turned into Yoshitomo Nara. The bodies though, that's where it gets real funny. They're very rectangular, so this almost has to just be a rectangular body. And I'll put a little dress on. A lot of them, the characters have little dresses. The legs are very straight. Get this little hook at the bottom sometimes for little feet, which I like. I think that's cute. So if you watched the Art Snacks video that I did for April, I did a Yoshitomo Nara study. So if you're curious to know more about the findings I had, you can either find it posted on Instagram. Oh my goodness, now I'm gonna have a sneezing fit. This is not fair. Sorry, excuse me. Oh. My wish was wrong. I should not have wished for this to be a very accurate look at what this is all about. This happens so often. If you knew how many sneezing attacks I've had to edit out of YouTube videos over the years, I could make a feature-length film of allergy attacks. Can anyone relate? If you want to see more of this study and like some of my findings, you can either look on Instagram. There's a post there of the thing that I came up with for Art Snacks, or you can watch the Art Snacks video and just kind of pause or go through it as well. I list out some of the findings in there, which are fun to play with, incorporate into your own style. I also had a bit of a chat on that Art Snacks video about style, which, looking back at the video, I don't think I ever really made any solid conclusions about it, which kind of is relevant to how I feel, and the nature of the beast being that, you know, my feelings about it change often. Sometimes I think it's really valuable, sometimes I don't think it's really valuable, but then I think all of that is just context, right? I think it's valuable for commercial artists, but then sometimes I look at that and I think, well, am I a commercial artist? No, not really. I don't really sell my art to license, but then I do sell my art for like collage clubs. So there's a commercial aspect to my art for sure, and that has not been a problem for me. The fact that I haven't solidified one style and stuck to it. So that's why my thoughts are always kind of in flux, but I always love the conversation irrespective. I do, however, think that the one thing I'll always kind of believe is that your own style will develop through repetition, and it will develop through that kind of subconscious gathering of all of the inspiration that you love. And that's why I think trying things is so effective. I most recently, through Art Drilling the Magic, was drawing these little characters, and I said something about them reminded me of some kind of retro Japanese illustration. Excuse me again. I'm going to title this video An Hour of Me Sneezing and Blowing My Nose. Okay, so when I was doing Art Drilling the Magic, I was doing these little characters, and I only half drew in their eyes. Like, I filled their eyeball with half a pupil, so it was kind of just like a circle that was half filled in, and they had really squished features for faces, and I said something about it reminded me of some retro Japanese illustration. So it's been on my mind since early March, right? So even that, I kind of just let it percolate around a little bit, and then I thought, well, let me go and research some Japanese kind of retro illustrations. That's why I got this book, which I put on Instagram recently. It's on my TikTok as well. It's called Kawaii, Japan's Culture of Cute. There's a lot about just kawaii culture in here, but then also a lot about illustrators. Illustrators? Why did I say it like that? Oh my goodness, I'm also obsessed with the fact that this magazine is called Deluxe Margaret. Why is that something I feel like I would do? It's just so random. Here's my new magazine, Deluxe Margaret. Although I'm a standard Margaret, I think. Nothing deluxe about me. Here is where I got really obsessed with, oh my goodness, do not get me to roll my R's before 5 p.m. Rure Naito, who is a Japanese illustrator, and I was really enjoying his work, so I was doing studies of that. In fact, a couple of videos ago, I was doing studies from this page on YouTube in my Hobonichi planner. So looking into that is something that I was really interested in all of a sudden, and then I got into just all kinds of other illustrators and exploring tons of different Japanese illustrators, and Nara is, like Yoshitomo Nara is probably one of the most prolific, most recognizable, I think, as far as modern art goes, and like in the art world, as far as, you know, like real art, fine art, right? We're not doing fine art. What is that? Someone said it the other day in the Assumptions video. It's not fine art, it's fun art. I don't do fine art, I do fun art. Yeah, I really feel that. But it is fun to try it sometimes, because the skill behind Yoshitomo Nara's work, in a lot of the more simplified stuff, there isn't a ton of skill behind it. There's obviously an aesthetic that he repeats, but even that, it's pretty open. In doing his studies, I found a lot of ways that he will vary up his work. So I find it really interesting to study all of that and then pick apart the things that I really like and then notice, okay, so I wasn't off base. So that just reminds me of Alexis. That's so off base. I wasn't off base when I thought this was some kind of retro Japanese thing, because this actually turned up a lot in a lot of the illustrators that I was looking at. These massive pupils that take over most, if not all, of the eyeball. So that was interesting to find out. And then I can, you know, choose to keep that in the style as I move forward and then understand the references a little deeper. It also, you know, threw me down this rabbit hole of studying Japanese illustrators whose work I really enjoyed. And then I learned through that process. And I think it's that constant exploration and like hunter-gatherer kind of thing that you do with those style studies that really start to push you into your own areas, and you start to develop your own kind of collective style from all of that, because you tend to just repeat the things you like. So even if let's just do what we did here. I love how this is turning into a pseudo tutorial. It so wasn't meant to. I'm gonna try and mix some of this with some of the style I already know I like, right? Because it's in the stamp set. The stamp sets are usually characterized by stylistic features that I enjoy. So we can kind of blend some of that in and see what happens. That means sometimes it won't look anything like the original source inspiration, but that's good too, right? Because we don't want to feel like we've just copied something. I like the eyes, but I don't really want them that big. I'm going to keep them that shape though. I think that shape, to me, I kind of think of it's a backwards J's. Like there's a J that way and then there's a J that way. That shape is a really interesting shape and very different from what I typically do in my more cute style of work. I actually do this kind of shape a lot with my more fashion style of work, because it's a lot more of a glamorous shape to be able to play with as far as lashes and eyeliner. That it looks a lot nicer. But I don't usually do that in cute. In cute, I usually do it a lot more rounded, because I think I always just thought that looked a lot cuter. But I don't know. This has kind of opened my eyes up to maybe that's just not the case. I think it actually has to do with the pupil being so large is what is making it cute. So let's keep that pupil as large, and we'll still have her looking over to the side, but I'm going to add some catch lights in because I really like twinkle in the eye. So I'm going to just put a few little dots in there that I'll keep white as I scribble fill that pupil. I haven't even checked that this is in focus. Are you going to hate me if this has not been in focus the whole time? I'm going to check, hang on. What a terrible video. Oh, I think it's in focus. I'm going to touch the screen just to make sure. Yeah, looks like it. 18 minutes, we've done nothing except complain about allergies. Sorry, guys. I think this is enough of the video for me to realize this isn't what people turned up to YouTube for today. But we had to try it so we would know, right? There's something a little more relaxed about it though, but I think this is probably better done on Instagram Live than on YouTube videos. Just my thoughts out loud there. I do like like I said, the wide set nostril, but I'm gonna squish this face a little bit more actually. I might bring a lot of this face up to between the eye area. Really squish it. I'm gonna give it a bit of shadow under the nose as well. And then the mouth, I would never really do just a line of a mouth. If I wanted to make a simple mouth, I would do the center part of the mouth, and then I still would probably fill even just like a little shadow under the bottom lip. maybe even fill in the top lip a little bit. It's kind of rare that I wouldn't draw a mouth on a female character. I might make it a little shorter. A little cuter. So, I mean, the proportions are very squished. So I'm kind of sticking true to half of what I enjoy in this cute style. You can see it's more approaching this effect, but we've pulled in the shape of that eye, the fullness of the pupils. I might even make them a bit more full. See, I think even that changed it, made it even more effective. So really full eyes. We love the lashes. Usually I would curl my lashes, but I've been enjoying these little straight lashes they've got. So I've been doing little straight lashes sticking out to the side. I won't actually put the edge one on, and notice that I did that before and I noticed that it actually isn't typical of Nada's style. There is not usually an edge lash. They're usually on top of the lid. Which, and by edge lash, I mean like one out here, like this. I use that one to extend the eyeline a lot of the time, but in Nada's work, they don't usually happen like that. They happen up here, or they happen down here. One doesn't usually appear there. And just because it doesn't typically do it, doesn't mean you couldn't find one. I think that's also important when you're doing a style study. Don't let an outlier change your whole idea of what the artist actually does, because I think what you'll find, is with most artists, they will explore their options. So, you know, if you're seeing a museum collection like in this book from LACMA, you're going to see some outlier pieces where the artist has tried something different. And it's important for the museum to show that because it shows process and it shows growth and, you know, kind of exploration. But as far as what the actual style of the artist might be, which I think is quite subjective. I mean, I'm piecing together Nara's style from what I've seen repetitively on the internet searches that I've done, and also, you know, now in some of this book, but it could be completely different to Nara. Like, he might identify his style as completely different depending on what he believes that to be. So I think it's subjective. I think I'm going to identify all the things I see repeated as a style. But, you know, I might be missing something. There might be a whole collection of his work that I haven't seen that has a completely different look to it. But even still, the studies that I did do for his work, he had a lot of different eyes, like a lot of different eye styles. There was ones that were, like if he's quick sketching, they're just little pupils in there. There was ones that instead of having a pupil, it was a line like this. There's ones where it's completely flat off the top and a lot more straight. So like, as far as style goes, you know, we're really familiar with some artists having a very particular, like they'll do an eye a certain way and they will do that eye that way forever. They might change up the mediums, they might change up the colors, but as far as we know, like that's the style of eye they do, especially in anime, right? That they generally become very distinct from each other with the type of manga anime eyes that they do. So they can kind of delineate between the different shows. But some people have a very specific, like they might put stars in their eyes. That's their version of eyes. And so they repeat that a lot and they never change from that. Just do different colors or different sizes, or they place it in different places on the head, but the eye is always the same. Nara had so many different eyes to choose from that honestly it's kind of fun because you can play mix and match within his style. And then once you find a few that you like I do enjoy this for animals. I think this was fun. It works really well for cats. And it was also something that I found in Rune Naito's work as well. Girl, I just need to say that in... I can just say that in an English accent or something. I just can't roll my R's as well as I used to. And even then, I wasn't that good at it. I'm going to put ears on. Big ears. I love big ears that stick out on cuter characters. For two reasons. One, I think it's cute when babies have big Dumbo ears. And two, one of my favorite animals is a monkey. And monkeys have these big stick out ears in a lot of cute illustrations. So kind of makes me think of one of two things. Typically I think of babies, but sometimes when I'm doing the ears on the animals, I just get tempted to do these big ears. Even if it's not the right animal, like if I'm doing a cat, I still somehow want to put these big monkey ears on. So ears are something I really enjoy. What else? Oh, and ears, I should mention, aren't something that typically pop up in Nara's work. I'm just going to say Anara and Naito. But I'll only talk about Nara, I guess. Let's bring some of this shape back into the head. I'm going to shave off some of that chin. I might even bring that chin to... It depends. I would probably point the chin a bit more, but I'm kind of liking it soft and rounded. It looks a little bit more babyish. So I'm going to shave off that bottom part of the chin. This is also something that I find I typically like to do. I'm not going to say it's a feature of my style because, again, I don't really tend to focus on narrowing that down. But for faces, a lot of my faces tend to be really close to the chins with female characters. I don't usually like a lot of space between the chin and the mouth and the nose and the eyes. They tend to be really scrunched down here. Lately, I have been actually putting the faces right in the middle of the face just to try something different, and sometimes I like it. But yeah, a lot of the times I will tend to really scrunch all of that area down the bottom. There we go. Cute. Let's put a little cheek on. I'm going to do a little bit of shading in the cheeks. I mean, one of the differences I think that's so obvious straight away is there's a lot more detail in even a simplified face like this. I tend to like the detail in it. Probably just because I like to draw, to be honest. I like to just keep fiddling. I do like that fringe being really short because I really like the long forehead. That's something I've liked since looking at a lot of Disney animation back in the day. They tend to have really exaggerated forehead space, especially when they're younger. So I will do a bit of a short forehead. I can keep the hair like that, but I'm gonna round it and make it a bit more even. So maybe like three loops. And this body very much reminds me of how I teach doing those really simple swatch doll bodies. Oh, eyebrows. That's something that Nara doesn't do very often, but I do like little eyebrows, so I'm going to put little eyebrows on up top. Those were already kind of stamped in anyway. There we go. Scribble that hair in a little bit. Instead of doing lines for breaks in my hair, I usually actually take a chunk of the hair out, like a little V shape. So I'll take out a few little sections of hair, so it looks like a fringe and not a helmet. There we go. And then the body, I don't have a problem with the body being you know, really rectangular. That's fun. So we can keep a really rectangular body. But I might shorten the whole thing. I might make it a little smaller, just to really play on the proportion of that head being super large. So I think that's cute too. I'm going to bring the arms in front too. He does these like train track parallel arms a lot. They're very shapeless. I mean, I guess not. Rectangle is a shape. But you know what I mean? There's no separation between the joints. There's no kind of undulation between, you know, shoulder going to bicep, going to elbow, going to forearm, going to wrist, going to, you know, it's all just straight line, which is fun. Oh, I could do one of two things here. I could actually make the legs as long as this. I think that would be a really interesting look. Or I could make little short legs. I'm going to go for interesting because we're pretending we're fine artists today. So I'm going to go all the way down to where those legs are. And I'm going to actually steal a part of Naito's work here, Rune Naito. And I'm going to make those feet a little heavier at the bottom. Actually, this kind of pops up in Nara's work as well, in those little bear drawings. But the limbs kind of get heavier, like there's a bit more fullness at the end of the limbs. I'm gonna have those feet facing the same way. And I'll probably put shoes on her. Make them actually a little, I'm gonna make it a little more squared off. Put little shoes on. Sometimes I like that. Not sometimes, it's kind of new actually, but there's a fun kind of heaviness to that limb getting thicker at the end. It's almost like, what are they called? Like horse hoofs? She's not part horse, don't worry about it. I'm still not super into drawing animals. Oh, they've been trying a little bit lately. Do you know what? I don't actually like it. It's a good idea in theory. I actually think that it would work in another way. So we're not going to give up on that idea, but I don't want it for her. And to explain that part of my brain, I just can't. I know sometimes that's the part that I think people would help them the most if we could just explain why. I don't know. Sometimes I just look at it and I think, nope, not for today. I guess I could try and analyze why I came to that decision, but I really don't know. Sometimes there just is a feeling or just a visual cue that says, I don't like that. Or not there, not that one, not that color. And I don't tend to fight against that a lot. I could try and make it work, but since I'm just doing this for fun, there's no real need to, I guess. So I let myself just make the change, and I think that's a lot cuter. I'm still going to put her little shoes on though. She can't be barefoot. There we go. Cute. Nara also does this kind of U-shaped opening for a little neck. So I'll do that. And he has a collar on this one, a Peter Pan collar, which I really love, and I probably would have put there anyway. I haven't seen this in the other studies I did, so I'm kind of happy that I came across this one. And it has a little pirate, not a pirate. Oh yeah, skull and crossbones. I'll leave that out. It's a little Wednesday Addams-y to me. There is a kind of cross-hatched scribble checkerboard pattern on the dress, and I'll put that in. I've been more into, instead of doing like patterns in places, I've been more into doing textures in places. I think that's actually more of a thing that I do around Art Snacks time, because I try to get so experimental with the boxes that usually some of the experiments create a really fun texture. So I'll put the texture in place of a pattern so that I can add it to my final Art Snacks challenge. There we go. I'm going to put a bit of shadowing in there as well, just because I like to give it a little bit of depth. And I think this is probably a good look at what I would do if I were trying to pull the parts of what I enjoy about learning from Nara's work into my own work. And then you kind of add the stuff that you like, right? Like I do like freckles, so I'm going to put freckles on. I actually think freckles age your character a little bit. I don't think it's common to see very many babies with a lot of freckles. So it's a good way to kind of make an ambiguous age to the character, especially when some of these things look really confusing. Like when you're bringing in a lot of styles, sometimes you can bring in styles references from different age categories. I kind of like that confusion because that's the fun of art, right? You can create things that don't exist in real life. So I say lean into the confusion. Just let people be super confused. But I really like the stripy legs, so I'm going to put some striped tights on with my good old candy cane shading, where we just shade the outsides. If you've done any of my Christmas anythings, I will have already told you how to do this candy cane shading, or shading a cylinder. I swear I end up teaching it every year, and every year I pretend like I haven't taught it before. Knowing full well that at this point, if there's one thing I can guarantee you can learn from me, it's how to shade a cylinder. But I think from the other leg, I might actually do polka dots. I'm feeling very Cruella-y lately. Cruella is one of my favorite villains. It's probably one of, like, my actual favorite. I love the Glenn Close Cruella from the live action 101 Dalmatians, but there's the new Emma Stone Cruella coming out in May, which I'm very excited for. So I'm going to give her mismatched stockings, which I think maybe is the first time I've done that. It couldn't be, right? Seems fresh and new for me, but who knows? Who knows? Probably did it once upon a time and then forgot about it. Today's the day though, comes back. I also would probably add colour. That's not something that Nara wouldn't do, but a lot of his more simple sketches don't tend to get the colour treatment. No, I'm lying. Totally lying to you. The pen sketches, I don't think. Yeah, those are all just sketches. Sorry, I'm referencing the book off to the side here. Anyway, how long have I been on here for? Just chatting away. 36 minutes. That's fine. 36 minutes, and this is what I have to show for it. Honestly, this video has been an emotional roller coaster, has it not? This is real though. This is how long it takes me to, well, that's a lie. If I wasn't talking, I think I would get it done a little quicker. Now let's do it without any of the guidelines to help us. I'm just gonna use the information. So like the peanut head, those fun shaped eyes, the little backwards J's. This is a color brush pen, Pentel color brush pen, and it's gray. I'm using the gray just in case I want to pop anything out with black. It'll really stand out. Here we go. Got the face. I'm gonna put the ears on. I'm doing the version where we've kind of mixed the styles together now, and I'm not going to make it so neat. I'm just going to be a bit more carefree with it. I do this a lot. I'll try something, and then I'll try it again, and then I'll try it again, and then I'll try it again. I actually think it's really helpful when you're learning. Repetition, it's just a great way for you to get a better understanding. Sometimes you think it clicks, but it actually didn't click, and then other times you just need to do it a bunch of times so it will click. But I think it's also really fun to just kind of let go and do a really loose version of it. They tend to be my favorite, if I'm honest. I do love cleaned up images sometimes, and I think there's a really great value to having a really clean sketch for something, but I enjoy the freedom of just doing a wonky one. And I don't think there's anything, like there's nothing worse about it, do you know what I mean? The only thing you could think was worse is if you expected it to look neat, but since I don't, it's just freeing. Alright, let's put her legsies on. I might do her legs as brush strokes, and then she can have white patterns. I'll get a gel pen or something. Sometimes I'll also do this scribble at the bottom of the feet to show that there's a ground, so that they look grounded. Because they can look like they're flying. You can actually make them look like they're flying if you put that shadow, that kind of ground scribble, underneath them with a gap, like she's flying or jumping at this point. So I do like that. Just a little scribble, have them standing or flying or jumping, levitating, do the peep. I'm gonna have a coffee, sorry. Taking a break. I got a coffee from the local cafe, and I asked for creamer, but it tastes like hazelnut, so I'm not quite sure if they did something to that. Okay, 40 minutes in. I'm checking the time a little obsessively, aren't I? don't answer that. I'm going to do some watercolor. I want to put some color onto this little gal. I'm actually not quite sure if this... Oh, it is! It's water soluble. There you go. I didn't know, I didn't test that. My other ones are pigment based. This is water based, obviously. Which is fine. I just have to be careful now because it's going to mix with everything. So maybe I won't color that one in because it will get very, very, very muddy. Use this Sharpie paint marker to put these stripes on and the dots. There we go. I'll just leave her like that. Also, one of the other fun parts of Nara's style is this red lettering. So I like to do all my lettering. It's kind of a bubble lettering, but it's very straight. There's no kind of rounded edges to it. It's all very linear. Yoshi, Tomo. I always forget his name too. I was always bad with remembering all my Japanese words because I mean everything just kind of starts to sound the same because it's also syllabic, and I mean, and I think anyone learning a second language, you know, has struggles. But I would put, when I was learning Japanese, I would put post-it notes all around the house on different things that I had to remember, and I would put the Japanese word for it there. I think I did a rounded edge there I shouldn't have done. That's okay. Oh, there are some round, yeah. Some of these curves exist. The A probably could have been a bit different. I don't need to copy it exactly. It's just the fact that a lot of the time when he does his lettering, it looks like this, and then it's filled with red. It's filled with a red pencil or a red marker. I did this the other way as well. I've tried it where I do the lettering first with the red pen and then I go around it with a black to kind of outline it, because I actually think that's a really easy way to do lettering if you struggle with it. I don't really try to do proper lettering, but anything that looks like lettering is lettering to me. Fancy, neat brush lettering is a whole different thing, but I mean, this is just red lettering, right? But I tried it first with the pen and then going over the outlines with the black, and I actually kind of liked this look better. This wonkiness just worked better for me than the other version, because the other version looked like it was too, like the actual red of the lettering. I don't even know why I'm explaining this. Just trust me. Trust me when I say I like this version better. Not that it even matters, but it was a big part of the style, and as a journaler, it's interesting for me to find people's styles of note-taking as well, because I love all the art, but I also want to know if there's something fun about either the way they compose their text, or if there's a way that they do their lettering, or if there's something funny about you know, how they tie one to the other. For instance, more recently in a lot of my journals and studies and stuff, if I've got a little block of text to write, I'll do a bunch of lines just like this in a corner, and I'll write my text over here. That is something that I picked up subconsciously and then realized from Liz Steele, who does a lot of urban sketching, a lot of still life kind of watercolors. Really fabulous. I love poring over her work for urban sketching, especially when I really got started. Like, it was very, very interesting to me. A lot of her techniques and a lot of how she went about it. It seemed very expressive, very free, but also captured a lot. I don't know, just really, really liked it. And I haven't done any of her courses though. I'd be curious. I never get time to do much courses, but I would be curious to see what's to offer in there. So if you've done one of her courses, let me know what they're like. But yeah, she does a lot of this. She has a stamp that she stamps out the date, I think. And then, or she writes it out. I'm actually now forgetting. But I know that her text is on these kind of lines in just a little part of her page. And so that is a very particular feature of her style of, you know, documenting that, you know, you can also pick up on. So The red lettering is definitely something I saw repeated a lot in Nara's work. Let me have a look at something else in here. Maybe I want to try... Oh, yeah, his pencil sketches are really interesting too. Do you know what? I might leave this for now because I've done a lot of these studies. Let's move this away. This is the book again, sorry. I don't know, I got this from Lacma's website. And it was $45, which is actually pretty good. It's very hefty. It's hardcover and features a ton of his work that's featured at the gallery. Some photos of his setups, which I was trying to peep the art supplies. Lots of pencils. Obviously not a lot I could determine just from a quick flip, but if I find it out, I'll let you know. Oh, is that a Hobonichi? No. Yeah, some of the pencils I could identify. Oh, look, this is an Albrecht-Dürer, so watercolor pencil, and he had Faber-Castell Polychromos as well. I don't think it's super important. Obviously, I don't think getting the same... Oh, look, you can see some here. Supercolor. Getting the same art supplies as someone isn't going to make you the same artist, but there is definitely something to be said for even replicating the experience. So if someone uses a specific type of paper, which I've done this more recently as well, I can't tell you what for, but I have been experimenting with a certain mix of supplies just to feel what it's like when someone else is doing something. Because I noticed a difference when I moved from student grade watercolors to artist grade watercolors. There is actually a difference, and then even then moving those watercolors from cold pressed paper to hot pressed paper, there was a difference. Moving it from thinner watercolor papers to heavy watercolor papers, 100% cotton watercolor papers, like just everything feels different and everything kind of works a little differently. Where is it? My little pen here, my Jetstream Edge. This is a beautiful, teeny tiny ballpoint pen. On Canson cold press watercolor paper, I find it skips a little bit. On, what was it, the Arches watercolor paper, it didn't. So, you know, even that makes a difference. So it's hard, you know, what's the perfect setup, right? I mean, maybe you really love the Canson because it's affordable, like I do. The Arches is a lot more expensive, but for the sake of being able to use it for what I want it for, which was to sketch with this ballpoint pen and then, you know, watercolor my sketches, you know, I have to make that trade-off. So, interesting. Definitely interesting. I will let you know if there's anything I find out from Nara's little collection, his little hoard of art supplies, although it does look pretty simplified. And even times where he creates on cardboard boxes, so I don't think he discriminates. But there might be something fun there. I'll have a look. What are we up to? 49 minutes. Guys, we literally have 10 minutes left. I am so sorry this is the video. I'm also half not though, because this is exactly what I set out to do. So I'll consider this a success. A success for finding out that it just is not the most interesting. Just see what happens live. Which is, we get more done in a Instagram live. I can't believe it. All right, I got my Lamy Joy fountain pen. I want to, let me see. I've got this stamp here. Just gonna stamp lightly over the face area because that's what I want. Ghost stamp it. Gonna tilt it a little bit. Oh goodness, that was terrible. I should have had something more flat underneath it. It's okay, I can kind of see it. I am going to... I've been curious to try this, so this is why I'm doing it. It was a thought that floated in my head more recently. I actually just want to pick up on the shadow areas with this pen because the ink inside here is water soluble and it's a really beautiful blue. I want to pick up on the shadow areas or anywhere really dark. So the pupils, the lash line, this edge of the socket, within the outside corner of the eye. I want to pick up on this so that I can activate it with my water brush and essentially be left with a really high contrast image. The inside of the ears, even up by the side of the face, the edge of the brow. I'm not going to do the center of the brow, I'll kind of feather it in. And then the cat snoring. Bianca, do you need to be doing all that? Can you give her a small bang as well? Oh wow, she's really going for it. Are you okay, Bee? Poor thing, she's exhausted. Okay, let's start there. I may need to add some other things. Excuse me again while I blow my nose. Okay. Where is this? So this is a water brush. It's a Kudetake Zig water brush. It's actually a Tim Holtz one. It's a detailer brush. I think Tim private labeled it, but it is filled with water and sumi ink. Although actually no, I think this one's different. I think this is a like a document ink. Either way, it's a black ink, but because there's so much water in it, this is the color of the gray that's inside there, and it's a waterproof gray. So if I let that dry and then I go over it a second time, it's going to darken. I can't get it to fully black, but you can get it pretty deep. So I would say there's probably too much ink in this for it to be super effective. I probably want a few shades lighter than this gray, but I can't be bothered to change it, so I'm just going to run it out a little bit, and then when I fill it up with water the next time, I won't add any ink, I'll just fill it up with water. It's not that it's bad, it's just the grey is a stronger grey than I would probably want as my lightest tone. But can you see wherever I go over the blue, it's melting into that grey? This paper I've actually noticed, this is a good test for this paper too. This paper tends to hold that ink better than other watercolor papers. This is the Strathmore journal. The other watercolor papers, it will dissolve almost instantly and almost fully. But this one, for some reason, does a really good job at holding on. Bianca. Can you hear her? I'm not sure if you can. She's so funny. B, are you okay? I cannot. These cats. So I'm just trying to put the tip of the brush into where all the blue is, and then just lightly kind of smudge it into the shadow area. So I'm kind of heavy, like strengthening up my pressure where I want those shadows to be a bit deeper, and then really laying off that brush when I want to thin line something less strong. There you go. Interesting, it definitely works. Is it the most effective? I'm not quite sure. I reckon I could have a better go at it. I do think that it has a lot to do with the paper though, and how willing the paper is to give up that blue ink. I think I could do better with the Canson cold press watercolor paper. I want to be careful I don't add too much, because I get really carried away. So watch me add too much right now that I've said that. For some reason I think saying it is going to be the fix, not actually doing what I'm saying. Do as I say, not as I do. It's okay. It's a test. I do a lot of these tests. That's why when I was talking about creative block, I think as long as there's curiosity in you, there's something to try. So I really did sit down with nothing to do except unpack that bag and create a YouTube video. And even though we haven't created the most, we haven't done the most that's ever been done in the history of the world and art sessions, I think we did a good job exploring and learning. So that couldn't be a bad thing, surely. This is also a warm grey, which maybe isn't the most complementary to this blue, I don't think. I'm gonna do a few little strands. Give that movement. I also like some of those strands to come over the front of the ears. I just always have. It's a nice way to shave in the side of the face too. Actually, that looks nice now that I'm looking at it. I think we did the right thing by going too far. I don't usually get to say that. Let's use the little black ballpoint pen, this one, to add some finer details on, so to find an area that's not wet. Might even do some cross-hatching. It's good because a lot of the cross-hatching areas are already shaded in. So I'm kind of just going over the grey areas. This pen works really lovely on this paper too, so really not trying to bash this pen here earlier. It was purely just the combination of a heavily textured watercolor paper like the Canson for some reason, because you know what, even the Arches, that's pretty textured. I don't think it's as deep a texture, the one that I've been using. But yeah, the Canson cold press one just really skipped a lot. But you know, sometimes I can even find that with parts of the page where if I've just moisturized my hands, the oil from the moisturizer will be on the page. You can't really see it because it just, you know, its moisturizer just kind of sits on there. But then I go to paint and there'll be a little resist because it's the oil resisting the watercolor. And yeah, even that sometimes creates a bit of a problem. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe my problem was just unseen moisturizer. But I don't know. Ballpoint pens this tiny can be tricky at the best of times. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a paper issue. But it doesn't make the pen bad or the paper bad. They're not the best of friends. And that's their issue, to be honest. I do like these high contrast kind of looks, but it is kind of hard for me to get a lot of that detail back in the eye that I really like. I really like a strong, crisp looking eye. Not even strong, but like very detailed looking eyes. Sometimes I feel like the eyes look really watery. And it might just be because I'm working a little too small. But this is my preferred size to work at. So maybe I should try bigger. Okay, scribbled in a lot of that. Do I want to do any of this white Sharpie? Maybe some in the catch lights? Yeah, we definitely want some in the catch lights. cute. Where's my paintbrush? I'm gonna put a bit of color in there. I feel like adding a bit of pink to those cheeks. Maybe even a touch on the lip as well. Even just around the edge where those ears are, because they're just kind of sticking out there with nothing to do. And so I'll give them a bit of shape by coloring the negative space around them. Coloring the negative space is a really good alternative to outlining. If you're someone that just finds that you don't like the look of outlining too much, I used to love it. I thought there was nothing better than spending, you know, a good couple of hours really neatly outlining everything, and then I don't know, I switched one day and was like, I don't want anything to be outlined. Or if it's outlined, it has to be in a kind of neutral color or somewhere that is not going to stand out. But as far as outlining in black, I mean, unless I'm doing specifically cartoony looking things or quick sketches or something, even with my latest collage club things here. Oh, that's not it. Where is it? I got the wrong folder. Here it is. These, like even these, none of these are outlined. They're outlined, but none of them are outlined in black. They're outlined in the same color. None of these are outlined. I love these. I haven't used any. I don't know why. I can print out so many. Like I can print out as many as I want, but for some reason I'm too precious to use them. I think they just look so cute printed out. I should just print them out and frame one. These are Collage Club. I print mine on label paper. All my bunnies are gone. I print mine out on online labels, white matte sticker paper, and then I hole punch them and put them in here. I actually put them through the Silhouette cutting machine, so all of mine become little stickers, which is really fun and easy. But yeah, I don't really like to outline in black too much, unless it's a specific look that I'm going for. But I used to do it all the time. Like I wouldn't even consider something finished if I didn't outline it in black before. Give her some brows. There we go. That looks good. I think that is it. And we're officially at an hour, so I'm going to have to say goodbye there. Let's just recap what we did today. We looked at the work of Yoshitomo Nara. It's been kind of a whole week of studying his style and getting lost in it and just enjoying the different features of it that I might like to pull into my own work and try from time to time. And then we had a bit of a play with my Just Face stamp set. We actually played with two stamp sets today. This is the Cutie Pie 4x6. This is the Just Face 4x6. I think both are still available on my Etsy store. Those are really fun ways for me to be able to play without having to draw my construction lines. And I love that. Yes, it's cheating. Only if you think it's cheating. But yeah, no, some people don't like to do that. For me, I know I can draw the construction lines of a face. It does not mean anything to me to stamp it out and skip that step. In fact, it just makes me get to the part that I like quicker. So that's why I use that stamp and illustration process. I know if you've heard about it before, you know. But there is actually a whole blog post article on concept stamping and how I like to do all of the drawing and the playing with my stamp sets. It's on my blog if you want to go and check that out too at jameslukeburke.com. The blog is called Journal, and there's just a whole bunch of articles on there that you can read. There's lots of tutorials on there. Like recently I did a monthly Hobonichi spread tutorial with templates that you can download as well. Those are free. And yeah, what else is on there? Instagram live replays from the past year. So yeah, there's tons to check out if you haven't checked out my blog before. This is all I got done in the hour. I'm gonna say it's not the most honest representation of what I would get done in an hour. I think I'd get a little bit more than that done. But also, I mean, maybe not. If Steve's in here chatting to me, if I'm watching, YouTube videos and I'm kind of sidetracked, this, it's not the best use of my time. It's not the most effective. I don't get a ton done if I'm being a little distracted, but sometimes this is all it is. And, I think, why did I do this? I want you to see that, not everything you see on social media is maybe the way you think it is. It's so obvious, everyone knows that. I mean, everyone knows that, but it's a good reminder that just because you see like a picture flash up on Instagram and or you watch a 5-10 minute video on YouTube, you know, the time that goes into creating that stuff isn't always 5 to 10 minutes. So don't like kind of knock yourself down if it takes you longer than 10-15 minutes to, you know, stamp this out and do it, because you may not be realizing that some people maybe work really slow, or maybe have taken a lot of time to prepare the video they're about to do, or prepare the presentation they're about to do, and all of those hours haven't been accounted for when you're watching the final product. And so we tend to get a really warped view of what we're actually capable of within that span of time. Don't get me wrong, some people are very good at working effectively and working quickly. There are times when I can just plow through like tons and tons and tons of stuff at once, but it is not typical. It's not something that I was born with. It's not something that I, you know, just have an innate ability to do. It is something I had to learn. I had to learn how to be effective with my time. What were my skills and my strengths that I could capitalize on when I needed to work quickly, and then how many hours I had to practice to be able to do things quickly, like sketching out a face or sketching out a template for a body really quickly. You know, it did not used to take me, you know, 20 seconds to do that. It used to take me like 20 minutes to do that back when I was a teenager learning it. So don't try and forget any of that stuff when you're assessing your own process and when you're assessing your own work. Be overly gracious with yourself, because even still, just because you do practice something for 10 years doesn't mean you're guaranteed to ever get any quicker at it, or to ever have any of those revelations that other people might have. Your process is just wholly yours and is very, very specific to you. And so I think it is just always important to be really honest about where our strengths lie, where our weaknesses lie, how willing we are to address some of those weaknesses, and how, you know, how excited we are or how determined we are to capitalize on some of those strengths. That is also a part of the process of creativity. It's a part of the process where you're managing the joy of your creativity, because if you are someone, you know, it's different for everybody. Some people really strive to be people who create an income from their creative pursuits. If you are someone that does that, these are things that you really have to be aware of when you start, because you know, once it starts becoming a job, you have to approach a lot of it like a job. And so I try to keep a lot of that separate. I try to still keep this time for myself. This time is more like, what would I say? This time is more personal time, you know, discovery, learning, playing. This is more of my personal time. Obviously there's a work element to it, because maybe it's going to pop up in a workshop, maybe it's going to like be the inspiration for something else that I do, maybe it becomes a YouTube video, right? And I classify this as kind of half work, half personal. You know, there are those things that can kind of cross both boundaries, but I do really like to manage the joy and make sure that I've still got space and time for that by, you know, really leaning into the things that I enjoy doing, that I feel good and feel successful at, and then also giving time to learn some of the things I want to be better at. That's also a joyous process for me, but it's not for everybody. So yeah, I hope this video has kind of enlightened some of that process. Studying other people's styles brings me a lot of joy, because I find a lot of things that I would like to try and try again. I also like a challenge. That is something I do enjoy, so that's a part of having a good time. But yeah, I hope you don't think that this is all just super easy for everyone. Most people, in fact I dare say everyone, has their struggles. And what is my struggle? I'll tell you. I know I'm supposed to wrap up this video, but I think you know, it's all a part of it, right? You've spent an hour with me. I don't think you'll mind spending an extra 5 minutes. Hopefully not. You can leave if you don't want to hear about my struggles. My struggles over the years have been, I didn't know what it was all worth, like what it was for. It meant that I wasn't a real adult, because I wanted to play with stickers and I wanted to collect washi tapes and I wanted to, you know, print out photos and do drawings. I didn't know many people in my own peer group that would do that. In fact, I knew next to no one that would do that. and I thought it kind of represented a big immaturity in me that I was a little self-conscious of. So part of my struggle had been over time, accepting this as a creative gift that I was gifted with and that I should be able to express the joy of. So that has been a struggle. Sometimes to this day, I don't particularly struggle with it, but I feel the struggle creep in when people express that same sentiment to me. Like when others tell me, that their family doesn't really understand, or their friends question why they're doing what they're doing. It kind of flashes back. Like I have, flashbacks of how that felt, and it makes me feel a little upset. But also I'm glad to have some of those answers now. And I even made a whole YouTube video about that, inspired by My Life Myths, on, why I journal. And I did disclose a lot of those reasons there. Chief among them being I do it because I enjoy it, and that is a good enough reason in and of itself. So that was a struggle. I think one of the other struggles I have had over time has been monetizing content, struggling with obligation to monetized platforms and content. That has been a struggle because I'm a very independent kind of business owner, and I really, really struggled with people's input and the feeling of obligation to kind of satisfy that expectation. That has been something that I learned to manage, but I will say it is always kind of an ongoing struggle because, even though I set my boundaries with respects to that in those monetized content, like when I did Patreon, for example, I very clearly set the expectations for anyone that purchased on that. I made it very clear what was available in my Patreon. I made it very clear that I would fulfill every single one of those obligations in Patreon, and I did. And anything that was extra was extra, but I still had people that were upset about it, or were angry about it, or wanted to, express their disappointment about it. And I really struggle with that. I really struggled not trying to just attack people because of it, because I felt like there was an injustice playing out. I really struggled to fight my own nature to be very confrontational on social media. So I always have to kind of pull myself back and objectively look at the scenario and look at the realities of like why people felt the need to police my Patreon, or why people felt the need to, kind of keep me accountable, even though I was doing a good job of keeping myself accountable. I through that being objective, I realized that, this is not the first time someone's been let down on Patreon before. So, it made sense that they felt like it might go the same way. So they felt like they needed to tell me about that. I didn't love it, but at the same time, I guess in addressing my struggles, sometimes it can be really difficult to look at the work that I'm doing, to know that I'm happy to share it, and then to look at the feedback that I might get and then deal with that. Like sometimes it just feels wrong that I should share and that people should express such like a hatred or a disgust or a concern or anything, because I feel like if I've come to this place then I want to share it, and I've only got good things to share, why am I being attacked for it? Or like, why am I being put down for it? Or even stranger, like, why are people commenting on my personal appearance for it? Like, I came out here to share something today and people are telling me that I look ugly, or that I look fat, or they don't like what I've done with my hair, or like, I don't know, it feels really, really weird. And I think, that's probably one of my biggest struggles. And to say that I don't sometimes look at the work and then start to resent the idea of sharing it, that would be a lie. I do sometimes think that. It's not going to stop me, unless it gets unhealthy, in which case I will do whatever's healthiest for me. I do have a pretty thick skin, and I think I've got a pretty good objective view on it, but yeah, if we want to talk about struggles, let's just go there, honey. I really struggle with that. I really struggle not, kind of just biting my tongue and just not lashing out. Because it just feels like an injustice a lot of the time. It feels like you really have a good intention, and for the most part, people are really happy about that, but it just sticks in your brain, the things that people say that just, and you try your best to forget it. You really do, but you can't forget some of that stuff because it's stuff that, like, if someone said it to you in real life, you wouldn't forget it either, right? So when you're reading it so publicly and then you think, oh my goodness, like hundreds of other people have read that about me, that person's opinion about me, and they might agree with it. I actually remember watching a video once someone had made about me, expressing some very inflammatory concerns, and I was dumbfounded by not only what was being said, the context in which it was being said, but also the way that people piled onto that and the way that people engaged with that, and people that I had actually seen around my own community spaces as well. It put a really big question mark in my head about who I could trust and why would people come and like do tutorials with me, or like come to my free workshops and then go and look at this person's video and then start writing all this stuff about me? Like, are they just around to secretly find reasons to hate me? Or I don't know. And at the end of the day, that is really not my problem. My actual struggle is I want to fight. Like, I want to go for it. I think I've made no mystery about the fact that I'm very confrontational, and that throughout high school that was very, very, like, I mean, you only had to look at me sideways and I'd be calling you out. So, you know, and even in dancing, I was very competitive. I was very laser focused about, you know, myself and where I was going. I've really, really tried to work hard about sticking to my intentions with how I'm sharing and what I'm sharing in this mixed media art journaling space. So I experienced like a real microcosm of like internet hate that, you know, is not comparable to anyone with any substantial following, but that is one of my biggest struggles. I know it's not technically an art struggle, but it falls into that because sometimes when I'm doing the work, even sometimes I get tempted to be like, well, I'm not going to do YouTube anymore. Like, screw it. If this is what I'm going to get back for it, then screw it. Like, it's one thing for me to share it and only a few people watch it and enjoy it. Loved that. I would rather 10 people watched it and enjoyed it than 60,000 people watched it and have to hear that I'm ugly. Like, there's no point to that for me. You couldn't give me enough money to make that much of a spectacle of myself. So yeah, that is a huge struggle because it plays into my why and like why I want to share. If we're going to talk more specific artistic struggles, honestly, I mean, a lot of them are in the past. I'm feeling a very creatively freeing, period of my life, which I just love. My biggest struggle is feeling guilty for having a lot of supplies, which I assuage that guilt by using them often, so that's nice. My other biggest guilt is, well, not guilt, but I guess struggle. I don't know, I guess I'm really happy to say that I'm not struggling as much as I used to in the past, so that's a good sign. Well, actually, my biggest struggle in general is time management, in that I say yes to too many opportunities because I fear that if I say no, I'll miss out, and have major FOMO. So that's probably a big struggle I still give into. I had done that earlier this year and it kind of flashed me back to 2018 when I said I would never do that again. 2019 when I said I would never do that again. 2020 when I said I would never do that again. I'm a broken record when it comes to overcommitting myself, but yeah, that's a struggle. There we go. We found a really good struggle for me. All in an effort just to share with you that, we're all real. We're all just doing what we do and trying to share it the best we can. I hope you take from it what you enjoy, and I hope you just leave the parts that you don't enjoy. I don't expect everyone to enjoy everything I do, but if you can just take whatever you like what I do with the style studies, just take the little bits you like and then move on, that's all I think you would need to do. And I hope you have enjoyed watching this process today. I hope you've enjoyed watching some of the translating and pulling the inspiration into my space and kind of morphing it a little bit and really pulling it into my own work. That's something I do a lot. Yeah, just a very real look at me right now. Can't say I'll ever do one of these videos again, but I am happy to have at least shared that with you. Hopefully opened up a bit more about some of my struggles, personal and artistic. I have not even touched on my personal struggle. else. We won't go there. That's the part of myself I keep very private, so that I can deal with that very privately. But I hope you have had a lovely time with me today. I will see you when I see you next. Don't forget to check out anything that's linked in the description box below if you have any questions about supplies and what I got and where I got them from. Usually I have everything linked in the Amazon storefront that I have linked in the description box as well. I will see you again another time. Thank you so much. Goodbye.